It gives me great pleasure to introduce Michael Calvo, I should say Dr. Michael Calvo. Michael was born in Tunisia, a very young 70-year-old, 70 years ago. He's a member of the Paris Bar from 1972 to 2000. He's a member of the Israeli Bar from 92 and an honorary member of the Paris Bar as well. After a law degree in Paris, he studied in New York University at the School of Law, where he received his Masters of Comparative Jurisprudence. He obtained a specialized degree in Anglo-American law from the Faculty de Droit in Paris, and a Doctorate of Law of International Organizations and International Economic Relations from the Sorbonne in Paris University. Michael has written this fascinating, incredible book. It looks very large, but the contents are actually phenomenal. It has a very special insight into this book, that you have a barcode inside the book as well, where you can actually access it with a smartphone, and it comes alive. You can see it on the internet, on your phone as well. So there are various barcodes in the book. I think it's a novel idea. It's amazing to see barcodes inside a written book, a hard copy book, but you have the best, that you have the internet connected to this book. Now the book is The Middle East and World War III, Why No Peace? A fascinating topic, a topic which is very, very topical at the moment. It's been for many years. We pray for peace and we hope to have peace, but I think if we understand the basics, why there is no peace, at least we can attempt to try and solve the problem and strive for peace. So I'm going to ask our author, we are very honored to have this evening, to explain his book, this wonderful book, which I encourage you all. It might look very large, but the contents are amazing, and I really, really would like to promote this book. I encourage you all to get a copy and to read it. It is absolutely fascinating. Without further ado, Michael,
Amazon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's on Amazon, yes.
It is on Amazon.
Yes. And you can find it in every Amazon in the world. Why did I wrote this book? I wrote this book because I realized that there was no peace, and peace was not possible, that negotiation went several years, that the suicide attacks occur in 2000, and before that we didn't have so many attacks before. The impact of the attacks on the Israeli population was terrible. We had, in my family, we had 3 children who were in the place of suicide attacks, and they were traumatized. I realized that there is something more than that, than a territorial conflict. At the beginning, we could say in 1948 that it was a territorial conflict, but after that we realized that there were other elements. We saw the raising of the Ayatollahs in Iran, we saw the Muslim Brotherhood, we saw the Hamas, we saw the Islamists in the world. So I tried to analyze first the policy which was followed by the Palestinian Authority, by Arafat, and then by Mahmoud Abbas. And I realized, by doing a chronology of the events which occur, or the attacks which occur, that they use the attacks to promote their own interests. That is to say, to favorize the election of one prime minister and defavorize the other prime minister. You remember in 2001, when there were elections, they were negotiating and trying to get something with Clinton. Then every time that there was a visitor was coming in Israel, there were attacks. Why these attacks occur? to show to the Muslim people, the Arab population, that peace was not possible with the Israeli, and that they didn't want peace. And at the same time, they were showing the Israelis that every time they will give anything like land or concessions, they will not get peace anyway. So the effect on the Israeli population was to consider that peace was not possible, and peace is not possible. And why peace is not possible? Because we saw after a while that the basic problem is a theological problem. It is even a metaphysical problem. And this comes from the Quran and the way that we interpret the Quran or they see the Quran. You have to understand that the Jews are despised in Islam. The Jews are are inferior, the same way that the Christians are inferior. And I discovered that the same things which happened against the Jews happen after against the non-Jews, the Christians, and all the population that they are called infidels. Infidels, yes?
Infidels.
Infidels. And why? Because there is a concept that Islam must spread all over the world. And with the strength that all these countries coming back to earth, Egypt, ancient Egypt, Syria, all these countries which did not exist before suddenly reappear, and the whole biblical situation reappeared again here. And they were thinking that it was time to conquer the world. And at the same time, there are a lot of population, Muslim Arab population, which are coming in Europe, and they understood that with time they will conquer Europe, and they will transform this Christian population into Muslim population. So the war at presently is a war, a theological war. They don't understand at the same time that the Jews came back to their countries. This is a real problem for them. This is why they feel humiliated. They feel humiliated because they cannot humiliate the Jews as they used to do it with their status of dhimmi. They are more humiliated because they have to respect and to respect the orders of women policemen, of women soldiers, and women are not the kind of people that who can give orders to men. And at the same time, you have black people. I mean, people who are Ethiopian, who have a black color of skin, and this is terrible for them. That a black, which were considered in the past as slaves, would give them orders. This is the humiliation that the Palestinians are having these days, are feeling these days. And this humiliation is not only for the Palestinians, it's for the Arabs and for the Muslims at large. How can we explain today that 1,600,000 people, Muslims, fight Jews who are 6 million in a land which is the size of New Jersey? How can we imagine that? Where is the problem? So we understood, and we demonstrate in the book, that this is the real cause, and that there is a war, a world war, which is going on. I can remember we began with Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, then we have New York, and then we have Mumbai, and then Bali, and then Madrid and London, Toulouse in France, Brussels, Paris, Bataclan, the Bataclan, and Hypercacher, Boston, Nice, Orlando, San Bernardino, Berlin, Manchester, St. Petersburg, Stockholm, Moscow, Barcelona, in Australia, in China, in India, in Mali, in Nigeria, Burkina Faso and Philippines. So we see that these attacks which occur are not related to the Middle East, but they took roots in the Middle East. The war which was against the Jews extended due to events which occur, that is to say the Muslim population in the world, the theology which was developed to the world. And what we see is that even in the Arab states, they are victims of that, because they consider that the leaders of the Arab states are compromising with the infidel. So they are fighting inside the Muslim countries. So what can we do? What can we do in face of this situation to prevent what I could say Gog and Magog, or Armageddon, or World War III? If we receive the prophets who are speaking about predicting and saying that the Armageddon and final war and Gog and Magog will occur, it is to tell us to watch and to try to find a solution, so that this event will not occur. So this is the question that I raise in my book, at the end of my book, and I propose a lot of steps to be taken, mainly by the American government, because we see that in fact with Trump we have a leader who can get and find a solution and find a way to prevent this World War to occur. You have to understand, and we have to say to the Muslims, that the Quran mentioned certainly and clearly that the Jews will return in their land, and that they should not continue to do that. Some Muslims are saying that what is happening to them in Muslim countries is because they don't respect the Quran and the return of the Jews in Israel. We have to tell the Muslims that they cannot, and this was not said by me personally, it was said mainly by some Muslim leaders such as Sisi, who said at Al-Azhar University, we have to change something. We cannot 1.6 billion Muslims in the world fight and conquer 5 billion people. This is not possible. You have to do something. We have to do this kind of thing, and to convince the Muslim country who are at the same time using the same way of thinking, that Allah is our goal, Allah is our aim. We believe in Allah. The Quran is our law, things like that. But this can happen in their country, but not outside of their countries. And this is the aim of the book. I would like to tell you that for this book I had an idea, which was, as you said, to put not barcode, which are like this, but some squares. Squares are QR code. This means quick response.
Is this a unique idea?
Excuse me?
Is this unique? Has it been in any other books? Or
I don't know. I don't think so. I think that I raised one morning, I woke up and I said to my wife, I have an idea, because it's too difficult to typewrite HTTP and the URL, and perhaps I should use this kind of things, which is used for advertising purpose by companies.
So one can put one's phone
It's very simple. You use your smartphone. You take your QR code application, and then you scan like this, and you have on your smartphone the video. And you have very amazing videos, such as the brainwashing of terrorists, of suicide bombers. You have declaration of for example, of Mahmoud Abbas, who says that we, the Palestinian Authority, we are responsible for sending people to do their duty, that is to say, to make attacks. We have declaration of I forgot his name. Excuse me. Dahlan, Mahmoud Dahlan, who says after his house was pillaged by Hamas, he was furious. He stated that on Saudi Arabian television that they are doing this, and they are ungrateful because we said to all the people who were searched by Israel to escape and things. And he said also that 70% of the people who committed attacks against the civilian population were from the Palestinian security apparatus. So we have a lot of things which are demonstrating the role of the Palestinian. And I am speaking, of course, about ISIS and what is the motivation behind this. I'm speaking also about the BDS, boycott, sanction, and boycott, disinvestment and sanction. Why are we having Europeans helping these people to? I mean, there is a full conspiracy to delegitimize Israel, so that the day they would attack Israel, then no one will raise and protect the Jews. I have discovered in the course of my writing that we escaped a full-scale war in 2001. You remember that there was the Intifada at that time. There were a lot of meetings which took place in Cairo and in Jordan, and meeting with the Iraqi Saddam Hussein. Mm-hmm. And everybody was ready for a war, against a full-scale war against Israel. And what saved us? It was the destruction of the Twin Towers, because after that Bush had an argument and said that this is not possible, and we stopped it. But even the some ambassador of Egypt was saying about that there would be something. Some Russian general said this kind of thing. You will find that in my book, and I wish that my book will
everything documented. That was the beautiful thing. I leafed through it before, and I can ask a question.
Of course.
Yes. The recent recognition of America as to Jerusalem being the capital of Israel has a tremendous psychological impact in the Muslim world.
Not only psychological, theological and metaphysical.
Yes, and the way I've seen it, and I'd like your comment on it, that until now the Arabs and Muslims could say there's something wrong with Israel's legitimacy because even its greatest friend doesn't recognize its capital as being Jerusalem. Yep. So then if Israel's greatest friend, America, will not recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, then what do you want from us, Muslims and Arabs? We also declare that we will not recognize Israel as a Jewish state. And they point to America. Now all of that fantasy has been destroyed. And that is one of the reasons, as I see it, why the Arabs are so excited and so outraged by this declaration. Even though President Trump said that the borders of the city of Jerusalem are open to negotiation, and they don't grab at that in order to take, to turn what they see as something negative into something positive.
And it is a simple declaration which has no effect on the ground, in fact. No effect whatsoever. So we see that the problem is a psychological problem, a religious problem, a theological problem, and a metaphysical problem, because they are asking themselves, and everyone is asking themselves, not only the Muslim, but also the Christian world and the Jews. What are they doing, and how did they contribute to the civilization? What is their role in the course of history? What God is thinking about the three religions, and why is this happening like this way?
To the Muslims.
Yes, and so I am thinking, and I can tell you that it's from this basis that we can after reading this book, but we'll understand much more, and it all this with the knowledge which is transmitted through this book, but we will know a little more about what is our role as Israel. We have to be determined. We have to be strong and to say clearly what is our role, what is a Jewish state. We have to say to the world that this land is our land, and this land is our land because God gave this land back to us. And that's all. And they understand, they can understand, the Christian can understand that. And the Muslim can understand that. The Christian can understand that because they understand facts. They understand facts, and they realize that after 2,000 years, they failed in their mission with the First World War I, the Fourth World War, and the Second World War. They failed. What happened in this world was terrible, terrible. What happened in the communist country was terrible. For the Muslim, it's exactly the same. They see that they had a very nice period, and suddenly of civilization, and then it collapsed. And we see now that Israel is coming up, and Israel is changing the world in a way, psychologically, and at the same time is bringing a theological aspect. Israel has returned, the role which was taken by the Christians, come back to civilize the world, or to transmit the one God and the love that we have to bring to our neighbors and to our brothers. This role is back to Israel, and we have to facilitate that, and we have to assume this role.
Michael, can I mention you have the iconic Richard Kemp, Colonel
Yes.
Richard Kemp. He
Yes.
writes.
Yes.
He writes the foreword for your
You wrote
book.
the foreword, yes.
So he is an exceptionally respected military. He was the head of the British Armed Forces in Afghanistan, and he's an icon. He's a man that has been in the theatre of war, and he knows the situation very well. To have him writing your foreword, it's really wonderful.
Yeah, and he is sharing my opinion that we are in near the World War III, or at least it happened. But he's not the only one. The Pope Francis said that in 2011, that we are entering World War III. Some expert from the IDC in Herzliya have been saying the same thing. What I have said in my book, what I have brought in my book, it's the demonstration that they were not wrong. And what the Palestinians are doing about the Israelis, the same things happen now in the world.
You mentioned that you had also a review of your book.
Yes, I had a review of.
If you could just
you said that I
mention
had
to
the
our
military aspect with Richard Kemp. I had two over review. One was made by former ambassador of Israel to Canada, Alan Baker, who said several things about my book. This is the legal aspect.
He's very well
the way
respected
that
legal
I
authority.
treated,
Yeah.
because there was a chapter where I spoke about the qualification of the attacks which were made against the civilian population in Israel, on the according to international criminal law, and you know that Alan Baker was in all the process of negotiations since the beginning up to the end, I would say. And so he said that you will find here in all the documentation and an analysis, a full analysis of the situation, legal analysis of the situation. And there is another review which will come out on in the Jerusalem report. And this one is done by someone that you probably know, you surely know. It's David Bedein
Sure,
from
David,
Israel
yeah.
Behind the News.
For how long did you work on that book?
Oh, that's a good question. I am a lawyer by profession. I cannot work
don't have
full
enough
time
time.
on that.
In
For
between-
sure.
in between
But
cases.
I can tell you that I began in. It took me 12 years, and I work on my free time, I would say. That is, if you would, a friend said to me after calculating this, he said, I understand that you work 4 years in the row. I mean, 4 years of work.
Could you tell our listeners out there how we can obtain the book? Is it only on Amazon, or can we get it through eBay as well?
Through
eBay?
IBAN?
eBay.
What
eBay.
is
No, I
eBay?
think it's through Amazon.
Through
Only
Amazon.
Through
Amazon.
Amazon, you can find it on Amazon
And
USA,
they
on
print,
Amazon
they
France.
print the copy.
Uh,
for you.
Yes,
print
they
on
print a
demand,
copy.
yeah.
But I want to tell you, this is not my first work, my first book. When I was young, I mean younger.
You still
I
are
would
young?
say,
Yeah.
I wrote a book on the SALT agreement, strategic arm limitation treaties between the U.S. and the Americans.
And Russia, the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
U.S. and the Soviet Union.
And the Soviet Union, excuse me. And this was a terrible work also. It took me 5 years, but I did it with my wife. And but those days I was working 16 hours per day. So 8 hours on the book and 8 hours for my clients. And I wrote another book in French. The SALT agreement content application verification was written in English and in French, and published in English and in French. And I wrote a book in 2004 on Arafat, the Arafat case, which was in French only. Yeah. So buy my book, you will learn a lot. And you will enjoy, you can read, and at the same time look at videos. You will see that, for example, there are strange videos. You will see, for example, that suicide bombers are trained, and in the training they are spending 40 nights in a cemetery, in a tomb.
A tomb. Wow.
Yeah. This is amazing.
Okay.
To get accustomed.
Thank you very, very much, and
Thank
we
you.
wish you all the best of success.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.